Hi, and welcome to this week's episode hosted by Gray and Mark Law of St John's Health and Fitness and Mark Elm of Leeds Beckett University, where we take training theory and science onto the gym floor.
Hey up everybody, welcome back. Here we are again, another episode of the Yorkshire Fitness Podcast. I'm Gray, joined again by his good mate Mark Elm over there at Leeds Beckett. All right, Mark?
How do?
And this is Mark, obviously joining me here at St John's, so we're on Zoom again for this episode. So I'll just cover really quickly what we kind of today's topic. So we've just come up with what we're saying is like the pillars of sustainable health, I suppose, really. A base level of things that you need to have in place to build, to hopefully kind of live. Because we talk about longevity quite a lot, don't we? It's like the big buzzword a little bit in it at the minute. You know, like it's kind of out there. Everybody's talking about it. There's a lot of doctors, a lot of research going into how do we live as long and as active as possible.
I'm going to say it's not the quality of life, isn't it?
It's not the life we spoke about last week. It's not the lifespan as such, is it? It's the
health span.
Yeah. So adding quality days to your life, not necessarily just extra days sat in a nursing home or sedentary and not being able to get out of the house. Yeah. So we've kind of been chatting about these, and we think we've come up with like 8 pillars, haven't we?
Just if I can just kind of add to what you said there, is that I think what we've tried to in the podcast up until now is to kind of be a bit of a counterpoint to what you might see as influencer culture, short-termism, and what get fit fast kind of messages you might see quite frequently. And I know I don't want to put words in your mouth, but kind of you as the business don't kind of advocate for that in the way that you go about your training is very much about longer term. And obviously I kind of look at from child to not so much the older adults, but certainly kind of longer term approaches. So that's kind of, I think the podcast for us has always been about dispelling the myths that a lot of people hear about in terms of these get fit fast kind of approaches and fad diets and crash diets and all the things that you can see on the media and social media. So I suppose I just want to kind of add to that. What you said there is in terms of longevity, but the things that we think give you the success over a long period of time, not just get shredded for summer.
I'm just quickly, it's really easy to go off here, isn't it? But so a doctor who we trained, like she's a doctor and she won't mind me saying it really, but she says to me, Martin, I'm thinking of going on one of these like a week-long boot camp for one of my friends to do it. She goes, and it's however much money do it. Do you think it's worth it? I went, do you think that anything you do in that is going to make any kind of difference to you long term? Or is it? And she went, no. And I went, well, there's your answer then, because they're going to go, they will beast them for a week, they'll feed them nothing, they'll come away, they'll have lost some weight, she might pick up an injury, but everything she does, she's going to be craving some crap food, she's going to be craving just some normal, and she's just going to fall. So every penny that you've spent, every hour that you've done of putting yourself through something that you don't really want to do, and it's for nothing, innit? If you're not going to do it long term. I said you're better off just making a couple little changes between now and next week that are pretty much insignificant, and then doing a couple more weekends. Do you know what I mean? I said, rather than trying to do all that thing, I said, so again, we're not into the quick fixes. We're not into, it should be as life. We've got to build it. It's a choice, innit? We've got to build it. Yeah. We've got to build these choices into as life, and just to help as many people live a longer, better life, like living a better life for longer, not a longer, better life, a better life for longer. I think that's it, innit? You can't get, there's no guarantees for how long you're going to live, is there? There's no magic bullet for that, I'm afraid, but you can get the most out of every day that we've got. And that sounds a bit morbid and all, but that's fact of it, innit?
That's deep. We've gone deep today, haven't we? We've gone deep.
Yeah, deep early.
But the pillars are basically, it's like the pillars are I suppose it's what we talk about from a training method and all sorts. So many things in life you talk about, like that pyramid, don't you?
Yeah.
And getting, if your base of the pyramid isn't strong enough, it's pointless worrying about what's at the top of the pyramid because it's just not going to happen. It's basically going to crumble in it. So getting them foundations are right, and these are all quite good points. And I suppose 8 could be seen as quite a lot, but some of them merge together, don't they?
Yeah.
Some of these, but they're quite good. So, shall we start with what we class as our pillars? So
Should we just kind of list them first, and then we'll go one by one? So
Yeah.
the list is exercise, diet, sleep, environment, recovery, lifestyle, consistency, and realism.
Yeah.
So that's what we came up with between the three of us. That's the combination of three minds. Is that those 8 pillars? Exercise, diet, sleep, environment, recovery, lifestyle, consistency, and realism.
Yeah. So exercise, I'll lead us off. So exercise, obviously, we are going to talk positive about exercise, but it's not because it's our life, innit? This is what we do. We try to get people in our gym. We try to help people exercise because we've always done it. It's been part of our lives. Probably I was talking to somebody about it this morning. Probably 30 years I've exercised consistently since I was probably 15-year-old, and I got introduced to it, and because of rugby, and I've never really had a break. And we talk, people come and go along your life, along your path, don't they? And they get fit and they get strong, and they might see a year out, they might see 2, and then they disappear. And it's just part of, you've got, like Mark's just said, you've kind of got to make it long term. But the effects of exercise, like not only physically, people just think exercise, right? I'm going to be strengthening my muscles, strengthening my heart, my lungs, my cardiovascular system. But like, there's so many benefits to your brain, like kind of, it's just massive, the effect that exercise has on your body. They're like proving now, they're showing that it can help prevent cancer and brain, like brain degenerative diseases, dementia, stuff like that. There's just so many benefits. So the oxygen flow to your brain is so important as well. So I think anybody who's wanting to live a healthier life, add
life to us days, isn't it?
Life to us days.
Yeah.
You have to exercise because it not only allows you to, because your legs will be stronger, your heart's stronger, your mind will be clearer. That is how you will keep active. Because without that, you ain't got the base to kind of go out and socialise and see your friends. So exercise is.
But exercise, it covers a lot of things, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like exercise. Yeah. It covers your training in gym, strength training. It covers cardio trainers in running or bike, cycling or whatever. But then also just going out for walks and just being a little bit more active.
You can cover a podcast easily. Just on the different exercises out there.
Building in.
But exercise in general. Last time I trained this morning, she said she'd not been well. She'd had a few weeks and she's had like COVID. She'd just not been well anyway for a few weeks. She's carried on coming to the gym. But she said the other day she just felt like, and she just went in garage and went on a treadmill and she walked she says, I put a podcast on and I walked for an hour. She goes, and I came out and I felt amazing. She goes, I've got a bit of a sweat on. She goes, but it wasn't like the impact of running, it wasn't a big intense workout, but it was like, well, that's really good. That's just good exercise. You've got your heart rate elevated and you've kept it up there for an hour and you've walked. So all the benefits. So yeah, there's lots and lots of different exercise. So exercise as a whole, let's say exercises under that umbrella of all these different brackets is a must. It's got to be.
It should be one of your
pillars. If you are going to live a healthy life, if you're going to give yourself the best chance, exercise has to be one.
Yeah.
And it's got to be, like we said at the beginning, it's got to be forever. It can't just be something you drop into every now and again and do a bit of exercise and see the benefits of it. It's got to be sustainable and it's got to last.
Yeah.
So there's my one.
Yeah. And I'm on diet, aren't I? So
You
the next one is diet. So this isn't about being on a diet. It's about your diet. And so we don't try putting anybody on a diet. We've never pushed diets. We've never pushed any kind of thing, but it's about making the change again and building healthier food and choices that are going to help you. So obviously if we eat too much, we've talked about energy balance. We've done podcasts before, too many calories in, not enough calories out, you get bigger. You know what I mean? Like however you want to look at it. But it's your food choices in it, and it's making the better choice throughout your day. So the number one thing, we've all read the books now, well we have, haven't we? But you've got your ultra processed people, you've got like the food, the Tim Spector stuff and all the things, but ultra processed food is, it's probably responsible for, I don't know, what would you say percentage wise for illnesses in this country, disease and stuff like that. It's got to, like overweight, obesity types of, because of how it is. Soft foods, easily eaten, nutrient lacking, but calorie dense, you know, like all the things that just make it addictive, make you want to eat more. So just cutting as many of the ultra processed foods out of your diet. So making better choices. We went to a talk, you know, like, but even like how your diet affects your cortisol levels, you know, like an inflammation within your body, and how it can your affect, you know, how your body can handle stress and exercise and work stress. So looking at your diet is a massive part. But again, you don't have to, you know, like go on to eating chicken and rice 4 meals a day, or I don't know, whatever other thing there is out there. We had another argument with somebody the other day about Herbalife, didn't we? You know, like, but just go, mate. It's still popping up. Honestly, it's still popping. I can't believe it's still it's still out there. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. But
I'm saying nothing.
But there's all your other ones in between, isn't there? There's everything. You know, like but just looking at how, I mean, I do like that. I went off Tim Spector really for a lot of things, for some things. But one thing, if you're looking at ingredients, if it's not in your kitchen cupboard, you probably shouldn't be eating it. And I do think, you know, like just being a little bit more mindful when you're shopping, how many ingredients are in that food that you're about to eat. You know what I mean? And if the list is more than 5 for one, you know, like one piece of food, then one packaged thing, it's probably the wrong thing to eat. But that doesn't mean that you never can have something. When you're out, you don't have to live like an absolute, but you should want to avoid them really, because there shouldn't be a treat, should there? That's the thing with it. You know, like you go past McDonald's and they're queuing, everybody queuing to give the kids a treat on a Friday. Is that a treat really? You know, are you treating your kids? Should that be seen as a reward, giving them something like that? But anyhow, but it's part of culture now, isn't it? But we've got to avoid it, and so getting your diet right, long term again though. How do we do it? Long term, make little changes that you can do. So the exercise and diet is a massive part of the pillars of health for us. But again, without the other stuff, then it's the other things actually help with these, don't they? Do you know what I mean? If you know, like, so yeah. But you know, most people when they've trained hard or when they feel like they're doing exercise, you can look at it both ways. Some might think I've earned whatever, and others might think, well, I'm training really well, I'm going to make most of it. But again, you've got to stay on it. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be long term.
Mark just mentioned the talk that we went to a few weeks ago. They were really good. They were like a sports nutritionist. They were a performance nutritionist. They were really good. Yeah. And he kind of just had 3. He kept this a little bit more basic. He had 3. He classed it. I can't remember what he named it, but he'd got like kind of his own 3 pillars of performance, basically. And these first 3 that we are doing, exercise, diet, your nutrition thing, they class like water intake as well as that, hydration in with that, and sleep, which is number 3, which we're going to talk about now. They were the main 3, because there's so many people worry about supplements, because he works with athletes, like high-end athletes. So there's people worry about supplements, all like lots of extra things that are higher up without getting these 3 things right. And if you're not, and so number 3, if you're not getting your sleep, exercise is more difficult. Nutrition is way more difficult because you're not getting your sleep, so your hunger hormones and all that, which we've talked about, haven't we, in previous podcasts. It messes everything up. So sleep is number 3. So if you're not getting enough sleep, as we've spoke about quickly on,
I was just going on to. I was just thinking of the food thing then, but I was just thinking. I know we said no ultra processed foods, but it's about eating whole foods, isn't it? Yeah. Fruits, veg, good meat. You know, like shop local, real food. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're nearly there. You eat the majority of food, them things, and you're nearly there. So that's it. Sorry, diet. Just had to throw that in.
Thanks for interrupting me. Sleep.
Sorry, I know.
It was halfway through sleep. It was halfway through sleep as well. To start back again from the beginning.
I'm not having for 10 seconds. I know. So people ask. Some people want to know. It's like, well, how much sleep do I need? I think that they say it's all about your sleep patterns, basically, in it. So if you're not getting your enough deep sleep, you've got your sleep. An average sleep pattern is deep sleep, REM, light sleep, and you cycle through that, don't you, through the night.
Yeah.
It's on that. Is it 3? It's like 3. It takes about an hour and a half, about 90 minutes to get through each full cycle, and ideally you should be aiming for 4 cycles, shouldn't you? Is that right? 3 to 4 cycles.
Yeah.
I do a minimum of 3.
Yeah.
I know that for definite. What I've read and podcasts.
More
and
than
listened
that,
to.
really, aren't you?
Minimum of 3 cycles of your deep REM and
That
light.
only be 4.5 hours sleep.
Well, it's a minimum of 4. Well, all right. It must take a little bit longer then.
No, it's
Anyway.
4 to 5 cycles.
Is it? But I know because
Yeah, go on anyway.
Yeah.
the last thing I read on it was really interesting one. It was saying that the last cycle of sleep that you have is like the big one. So people who set their alarms, if you're getting up really early, I think it's when you wake up and your alarm goes off and you are proper dead groggy and you're wondering where the hell you are. That's because you've been woken up in your last cycle of sleep, and that's apparently when the cleaners come in and flush your brain out. So it's that, and kind of that's what sort of detoxes your brain on a daily basis, sort of while you're asleep, and then refreshes you, ready to go the next day. So that's obviously really important. So again,
internet connection here,
same
probably
reconnecting here, but it's all right. We'll carry on because it might still be recorded. So if you're not getting enough sleep, your hunger hormone, the ghrelin hormone kicks in, doesn't it? So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're more likely to be really hungry the next day. So people who really struggle with their sleep, you end up getting into a bit of a vicious cycle of not sleeping, waking up really hungry, eating extra food or looking for junk food, eating more. That messes you with your hormone levels even more. Your blood sugars are increasing, your blood sugars are lowering, and it just sets you on this cycle, and then that affects your sleep the following day. So you struggle getting into any pattern. So sleeping is really important. So again, another pillar is sleep. It's just that because it's like probably that I would say that the first 3 are up there with the most important 3, because without them 3, you've got no foundation to build on. So if you're not exercising, you're not going to feel fit. You're not going to feel healthy enough to do anything with your life, with yourself. If you're not eating right, B, you're not going to you're not fueling your body right. And 3, if you're not sleeping, you're not fueling, you're not recovering in between days to then exercise and put it all together. So it's just one big circle.
So pillar 4 of our pillars of sustainable health is environment. So I want to talk about environment in a couple of different ways. So we've got our physical environment and our psychological environment, and as much as possible, how you can control or influence the environment around you. And I'll give you some indications, also some ideas about kind of both of those things. So physical environment, if you go back to some of our previous podcasts around about habits and how you create good habits or get rid of bad habits, the physical world around you either promotes or inhibits certain types of behaviors. So, for example, if you have a lot of junk food in your house, and that junk food is really prominent, visible, easy to get to, that environment is not complementary to sustaining a better diet. Equally, if you've got, let's say, a garage, and in that garage you've got a treadmill and some weights, you don't have then the barriers of physically going out, going to the gym. You can do some exercise at home, in your own time, in your own space, when you've got the most convenient opportunity to do so. So the physical environment around you allows you the opportunity or promotes the opportunity to have those healthy behaviors more of the time. Now, I don't have a garage, so I can't build a garage in a terraced house. That's not going to happen. So I can't necessarily have a huge amount of influence and control over that, but I can have some influence, some control over the environment that I create for myself. Do we have access to some home training equipment? Yes. Is the worst foods in the house easy and accessible? Can I make them less accessible to me? They're less kind of in my eye line every time I go do something. So how you create your physical environment around you and how you can choose to put things in certain places has a big part to play in how sustainable your lifestyle is. Because if you are having to actively choose not to do something which is bad for you every single day or every hour of the day, that eventually will come back to haunt you, and you'll probably make some poor choices. Now, as Greg just talked about there, sleep. If you've had a poor night's sleep, you become like a sugar missile. You're looking for things around you that are not great for your health, but very kind of pleasing at the moment of eating them. So you kind of make a beeline for them. If they're easy to get at, it doesn't take a lot to go and pick up the chocolate bar, pick up the packet of crisps, whatever that happens to be. Equally, if it takes you a lot of effort to go to wherever it is that you go for your exercise, then you're less likely to do that. So your physical environment around you is really kind of helpful or not helpful, depending on kind of how you've organized your life, your environment around you. So how you can organize your physical environment is one thing. The other half of that is the psychological environment. And similar to the physical environment, some parts of this you can't control, some parts you can't control, but it's about kind of controlling the controllables. That's always the stock answer, the stock phrase that we give. So what do we call by psychological environment? Okay, so what things around you are promoted, praised, recognized, rewarded, or mocked, looked at negatively? So if you go into kind of the kind of fitness trends over the last 10 years, things like High Rocks and CrossFit, they took on a huge amount of interest, not because the exercise specifically was fantastic. As a strength and conditioning coach, look at some of the exercises they pick and kind of I kind of have massive questions, but it's the community around them. People around them believed in the same things as them, praised the same things as them, wanted to do the same things as them. So look at your psychological environment. How much kind of praise or recognition or reward do you get from making positive lifestyle beneficial choices? Or do the people, or do the kind of attitudes and behaviors of those around you diminish that, kind of move you or pull you away from being healthier and pull you towards being unhealthier? Now, you're not the kind of person that says what they can and can't do, what they can and can't behave like. We're not the kind of moral police. But you can choose how much time you spend with them. And you can also choose how much kind of they impact you to some degree. So can you find that community now? Unfortunately, we've had a few technical issues today, so I've lost Gray and Matt. And at this point, I would kind of go to them and say, one of their strengths of St John's Health and Fitness is the positive community they create. And that's something they do very deliberately, very purposefully, to try and encourage all the members, whether they come on their own or come part of a group classes, to be part of the St John's community. And it does help promote more positive lifestyle habitual behaviors that are helpful to your sustained success if those people around you are doing the same thing. So it might well be that you go out for a meal with your friends and all of you making healthy choices. Well, it becomes a lot easier to make a healthier choice. But if you're the one person in that dinner table trying to make a healthy choice for you based on what you want to eat, and everybody else is tucking into the world's largest pizza, it becomes really difficult in that psychological environment to be the kind of person who's different from everybody else, be the outsider, if you like. You're more likely to want to be quite so social and conform to what they're doing, especially if there's a gobbier person in that group that says, why aren't you doing what we're doing, and all that kind of behavior. So the psychological and the physical environments that you live in will have a long-standing impact on how you live your life. And yes, there are some things that you can't change, but lots of things in that you can change. And just recognizing what those things are, not fighting all the battles, and making some lifestyle changes to make sure the environment around you, be that psychological or physical, promotes being healthier more of the time. So that's kind of point one would be exercise. Pillar 2 is diet. Pillar 3 is sleep. And pillar 4 is environment. So there is part 1 of our episode on the pillars of sustained health. We'll come back to part 2 to cover recovery, lifestyle, consistency, and realism. I apologise for today. We had a few IT-based technical issues halfway through. Hopefully this time next week we can piece that together a bit better and all three of us can finish off the episode. But until then, please follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you do that. Please leave us a comment, a writing. Let us know you're listening. It'd be great to hear from some of the people who heard what we've got to say and give us some feedback.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked the episode, we'd like you to share with us that on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter. You can listen again on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a rating and a review, and any comments would be more than appreciated. And hopefully you'll tune back next time for our next episode.
The Yorkshire Fitness Podcast.